Hey there, folks. Coming at you guys again here, September 23rd. I cannot believe the dates I am seeing on the calendar these days. It seems like we have uh, been in a time standstill, and yet we're not. So today for fiction, our fiction portion of creative writing this week, I had a very interesting prompt that led me down a new path. So I hope that you all will join me in experimenting a little bit. Today I would love to talk about genre. Okay, now this is something that I think most of us are familiar with television shows and films and theater, but maybe don't think about as much when we're writing. And actually, it's a really, really fun thing to sort of question yourself about. What genre am I writing in? Okay. Some examples of genre are, romantic genre, or realism, or perhaps suspense, or true crime, or I don't know, family friendly. There's tons and tons of genres out there. But I bet just by bringing up that word, that you at home might initially jump to a specific genre that you particularly like. Like, I will use my own family, for example. My mother's favorite genre is period pieces. So she really, really enjoys stories from a long, long time ago, that have intricate costumes, and typically the storylines are very romantic. And that is a particular genre that she really enjoys, I know, watching. My stepfather, on the other hand, loves the war film genre. I think possibly because he was a soldier when he was much younger. And also because I think there's like a tradition within film, especially in sort of glorifying war heroes and stuff like that. And I know that my brother's favorite genre for a long time was true crime stuff. He was always fascinated by the unsolved things. Myself, my favorite genre growing up always has been the Western. When I was a little kid, I got really into Westerns because I couldn't always sleep at night, and my dad would put on an old Western thinking that the slow moving pace of an old Western would help me fall asleep. And it sort of backfired because I got really fascinated with the storytelling and the patience that it takes. So today, when I was scrolling through potential prompts to begin our story for the day, I happened upon a prompt that was very much reminded me of a Western story. So I decided to write a short story in the Western genre, and I'm pretty pleased with it. I think it came out all right. I don't think I've ever written a story as a Western. I did write a screenplay when I was in graduate school that was a Western for myself to act in. But I really, really have always enjoyed this genre. And I just watched a Western last night. And so I really felt like I was in the right mood and the right mode. And then this prompt came up. So I will share this prompt with you, but I will also give you all permission to write your story today in whatever your favorite genre is. So maybe you want to write a science fiction story, or a thriller, or I don't know, a spy story, or maybe you want to write a fantasy story. Maybe you want to write in the medieval genre. I don't know. Whatever sounds good to you. So you do not have to start with this prompt that I started my story with, unless you would like to, unless you're interested in writing a Western story as well. Although this prompt wouldn't necessarily have to be a Western, it just made me think of Westerns, and I thought, oh, what a great thing. We haven't talked about genre yet in our short story class. So here we go. I'm going to share my short story with you in the Western genre. And then I'll go through the story like I typically have in the past, and sort of share where I was at and what I was thinking and how I got to where I got to in my story. All right, you guys. So here we go. The horse came back alone. You could barely make out its head above the wheat on the western slope. At first, I didn't know what it was. It was just a black dot bobbing on the horizon. Then, as it neared, I knew something was wrong. Jonah had always been a confident rider with a strong command over the animal. Even 2 summers ago, when they happened upon a rattler, I thought he would have been bucked off for sure, but somehow he managed to keep himself and the horse upright. My mind drifted through the many possible scenarios as I watched the horse approach the barn's water trough. I left the front porch and joined the horse at the barn. It drank like it had run the prairie all day. And that's when I saw that the horse had come up lame too. A single arrow hung from its hind quarters. And I feared the worst, an ambush. Ooh, okay. So this one definitely deserves, to be investigated further, I think. But I really, really was trying to paint the picture. Remember that I keep talking about this. I'm coming back to imagery a lot, and I hope that you all are experimenting with painting your own pictures in your stories. But this one, I was trying to paint the picture of being alone on the prairie. There's a barn and obviously a house from which our main character, who I left unnamed, leaves the front porch at one point. And so I was really trying to paint this picture of how long things take when you're out on the prairie. You see something far away and you think, oh, if it's moving towards you or you're moving towards it, that you will see it soon. It actually takes a very long time sometimes in the very flat prairie land that I imagine this story takes place in. And so that was a big part for me to try to not let the horse arrive too quickly. So I will go through the story line by line, and I'll try to share with you guys where I was at and how I got to the spooky end. Okay, the horse came back alone was my prompt. So if those of you who are interested in writing a Western, feel free to use that as your prompt. If not, if you would like to write in a different genre, you do not need a prompt. You can start your own story wherever you would like to start your own story. And maybe that'll be more fun than having to start where I tell you to start. So embrace it and don't be afraid of it. My next sentence, you could barely make out its head above the wheat on the western slope. So I imagined that our writer, the owner of this horse, Jonah, who I reference, was gone from our farm here, and was returning from the western side of the barn and the house. And I also wanted to use the word Western in my storytelling, but not talking about the genre. So that's why I selected the Western slope. At first, I didn't know what it was. It was just a black dot bobbing on the horizon. So imagine that you see the horizon line, okay? And okay, there's just this little dot of a horse. If you have been around horses or you've watched horses on film or anything, you'll notice that their heads don't just stay the same while they're walking all of the time. There's a little bit of a bob while they trot, if you will. And so I was trying to paint the picture of how far away this horse is, and the time that it will take to get there will take a little while. But also was trying to imagine what our viewer would be seeing and why maybe they would be confused. Okay. Okay, so the next sentence, bobbing on the horizon, then as it neared, I knew something was wrong. Okay, that's the first time we get an idea that this horse should not be riderless. Okay, and then I name the horse's owner. Jonah had always been a confident rider with a strong command over the animal. So this gives our main character concern to see this animal returning to the farm on its own without Jonah, and there would be something significant must have happened for a rider this good to not be on their horse. Okay. Even 2 summers ago, when they happened upon a rattler, I thought he would have been bucked off for sure, but somehow he managed to keep himself and the horse upright. Now, when I was a little kid, one of my favoriteest Westerns, which is based on a novel series of Westerns, is called Lonesome Dove. And I highly, highly recommend the Lonesome Dove series to any of you who are not familiar. It is a fascinating Western tale, many Western tales actually, and several Lonesome Dove stories have been made into films. So in that story, there is a moment that always used to scare the living heck out of me when I was young, where a young man tries to cross a stream and happens upon a bunch of snakes. Snakes and horses do not really mix too well together, because snakes have that weird hiss, and especially rattlesnakes have the rattle, and they have a tendency to spook horses, and horses get really, really concerned. And horses are very vulnerable around their feet and their ankles, and that's where a snake could potentially get them. So when a rider encounters a rattlesnake, it is very, very possible that they can be thrown from their horse. But our subject is telling us in this moment that Jonah was such a good rider and had such a command over this horse that even when encountering a snake 2 summers ago, that neither Jonah nor the horse lost control. So this also should be adding the level of concern that we are feeling for this Jonah character, knowing that they were a good rider, knowing that they had really good control over their horse, even when presented with, scary circumstances. So, moving on, my mind drifted through the many possible scenarios as I watched the horse approach the barn's water trough. Now, my thought here is that a horse left on its own and having to have walked all the way home without its rider, that there must have been something that happened that made that horse run so much. So I was thinking, on the prairie, if you've been doing a lot of running in the sun, the first thing you would do as a person, and I think as a horse too, is get yourself some water. And also I was trying to find a way to let our main character approach the horse in a state where they didn't have to corral it, that the horse had come to rest already. And so there the water trough idea kind of served two functions. I left the front porch, so we know there's a front porch on this house at the in this farm, and joined the horse at the barn. It drank like it had run the prairie all day. And that's when I saw the horse had also come up lame too. Okay, so this sentence I very much was trying to establish how worn out this horse is, that it's very, very thirsty, and that our concern for the Jonah character being out on the prairie without his horse also should be rising. And then I dropped the bomb, if you will, that this horse has also been hurt. That's what the phrase "coming up lame" means in regards to horses. And I was trying to use some Western phrases that I'm familiar with. Obviously, I didn't grow up in those times, and I learned a lot about those times through books and movies. But that's something I am familiar with, was used in those days. And then our final sentence of the story, putting it all together. So this person who was remained unnamed is putting together all of the pieces like a little detective, okay? And now is when the penny drops. A single arrow hung from its hind quarters, and I feared the worst, an ambush. Okay, so here's where we learn that it's very possible that our character Jonah was ambushed by the Prairie Indians, which were very known for being strong tribes that would not back away from a fight. Okay, it's important to remember in those times that what's the best way to put this? We were trying to civilize the land, and we were trying to bring, our values and our prosperity, and we were trying to make the West into a more civilized land. And there were plenty of indigenous tribes that were already living here that were not really consulted on those decisions, because the United States just kind of decided that any of the indigenous tribes didn't really own this land, that we owned this land, which is disappointing, I guess is the best way to put it, or the kindest way to put it, because we basically took their land from them. And that's why there was so much fighting between Westerners and pioneers of that time and indigenous tribes. So not trying to paint them in a way that, sort of makes them seem like that, because they're always portrayed as very, very villainous characters in stories of the early stories of this time, and there certainly was conflict, and it was very violent, bloody conflict. But I guess I'm just trying to give you a backstory as to what was really going on behind that conflict. And there certainly are no innocents on either side of that conflict. So our final sentence, which is the one that I really think ties this all together, And I would encourage you to try to do the same thing in your stories. Whatever genre you select, try to make your final sentence tie the whole story together, okay? And give your audience a big piece of information that you've been holding off on, okay? A single arrow hung from its hindquarters, and I feared the worst, an ambush. This is where we finally figure out that, boy, that character Jonah has gotten themselves into some big trouble. All right. Well, I hope this was fun for you all. This will conclude our fiction chapter for today, for this week. I'll return for some more poetry. But I hope that those of you who are interested in writing within this genre, feel free to use the same prompt line if you'd like. The horse came back alone. Lots of possibilities there. Or if you would like to select any other genre, feel free to start your own story however you would like. Okay? I hope you all are having a good day and staying safe, and I'll see you all back here again soon. All right, bye.